Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today to the last workshop. My name is Octavio Lara. I'm the Manager of Diversity, Accessibility, and Mentorship with the Project Learning Tree Canada and the Sustainable Forestry Initiative. Today I'm going to be your moderator for this learning session, which is going to focus on supporting youth with diverse abilities. Today we have a very special guest from Nova Scotia Parks, and they will share their experience on the diversity, accessibility, and how they have applied recommendations and policies in order to make green jobs more accessible to diverse youth with different abilities. So I would like to introduce, we have Tara Crandlemere, who is the manager of Parks and Recreational at the Lands and Forestry. We also have Logan MacDonald, who is the summer student with the Accessibility Project. And last but not least, we have Paul Koziel, who is the area manager for Lands and Forestry. Thank you very much for doing this presentation. I will pass it over now to Tara, Logan, and Paul. Thank you.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Paul Koziel, and I'd like to thank you and thank Amy for the invite to today's session. I would like to begin by acknowledging that Tara, Logan, and I are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship, which Mi'kmaq, Maliseet, and Passamaquoddy people first signed with the British Crown back in 1726. I'd also like to acknowledge that people of African descent have been in Nova Scotia for over 400 years, and we honor and offer gratitude to those ancestors of African descent who came before us to this land. As Octavio mentioned, I am with the Department of Lands and Forestry as a manager. I think as much as my background has been related to forestry and wildlife and parks, I think my true passion, particularly in the last 5 years, is trying to help our department become a more inclusive workplace and a more welcoming and inclusive workplace for people with disabilities. If we can move to the next slide. So my goal today is to highlight some of the initiatives our department is undertaking to increase diversity and foster inclusion in order to better serve the Nova Scotians we represent. I think most people on the line probably realize the importance of diversity. Diversity in the workplace is strongly linked to employment retention, as it indicates an environment of mutual respect. Employees that feel supported and valued are happier and more productive. Greater diversity also enables innovation and helps employers respond creatively to issues and challenges that may arise. I do want to highlight a few of the accomplishments of the public service of Nova Scotia. In 2018 and again in 2019, the Nova Scotia Public Service was recognized as one of Canada's best diversity employers. But it's really not time now for us to rest on these accomplishments. Our census numbers from our employees show that we need to do more, and we continue to be underrepresented by these equity groups that we represent. We have to know that it's more than just looking different, it's about genuine inclusion. Unfortunately, people with disabilities remain underutilized as an underutilized pool in the labor market, and they often struggle to find meaningful employment opportunities, which of course they do deserve. So if you look closely at this slide, the smiles you see are not reserved for the camera lens. These are the smiles and energy that I see every day from Robbie Goyich on the left and Michael Martin on the right when they arrive at work at their respective parks. These two gentlemen, the two gentlemen here epitomize the meaning of success in every way. In 2017, the Department of Lands and Forestry partnered with several agencies, including Ready, Willing, and Able, the YMCA, to provide meaningful employment for people with intellectual disabilities. The impact that Robbie and Michael have had on their respective workplaces is astounding. Not only are they competent and productive employees, they've had a direct positive impact on morale and the concept of teamwork. This spring, 2021, will mark the 5th year that they've been with us, and it is my sincere hope that we will continue to build on this success in supporting people with disabilities. I just want to tell you a quick story. I guess before I get into the story, Robbie on the left, his mother Claire, and Michael on the right with his mother Virginia. It's all about support. Of course, when they come to work every day, my hope as a manager is that these employees and every employee is supporting each other, but really it comes from the support at home as well as the support of organizations. And I know some of these organizations are here today. For us, Ready, Willing, and Able and the YMCA we would never have had the success we've had without their support. And I think it's just really common, but we sometimes forget that we shouldn't go it alone. That support means everything. And that's why I appreciate being here today. I just want to tell you a quick story because I find it kind of funny. Back in 2017, when we hired both Michael and Robbie, a month or two later, things were working out really great. I was going to parks, checking in, calling the families. The staff genuinely just loved these two gentlemen. I've noticed a huge shift in morale at their work sites. The teamwork approach was just through the roof. Everybody was happy, supportive. So a few months after their employment, I was asked by the YMCA to speak at a career fair here in Sydney, Nova Scotia. I was happy to do it. But I thought, how can I make this special for both Robbie and Michael and for the people in attendance? So that night in the room, there was probably 50 or 60 potential employers. So I asked both Michael and Robbie to join me there. As I took the podium, I could see Robbie and Michael sitting out in the crowd in front of me. And I used that opportunity partway through my presentation, just speaking to how productive and what they've meant to me and the workplaces that they worked at. So I asked them to stand up and take a bow, and they did that. A short while later, when my presentation ended, I started to walk around the room to do some networking. And after a while, I said, well, I'm going to leave now, but I want to say goodbye to Michael and Robbie. To my dismay, almost, I couldn't find them. But I did see a large group of people in the back corner of this large room. So I made my way in that direction. And lo and behold, I found Michael and Robbie sitting there with a handful of business cards each from potential employers. So I guess I did my job that evening, but I realized I spent the next week or two wondering if I was going to lose those guys. I guess the story, what I would like to tell about that is after the fact, several weeks later, it's kind of weighing on me. I was like, wow, am I going to lose these two great employees? And so I called their parents. And really, I got the same message from both parents, that they would never leave the Department of Lands and Forestry because of the supportive workplace that we provided to them. It wasn't worth the risk. Even though they were offered other jobs and in some cases more money, it wasn't about that. It was about the support they received through working with government. And so for any potential employers out there, I'd like to state that for the little upfront work that it takes to bring somebody on with either an intellectual or a physical disability, it pales in comparison to the reward that you receive. You want to flip the slide? So when I think about promoting careers within our department, it is about upfront work. You just don't, we don't post jobs. You can't expect to post a position and designate it to an employment equity group or to a group with disabilities without finding your networks first. So I encourage any youth that may be on the line or any employers out there to reach out. And again, this is the one way you're doing it today. I know in the breakout group I was in, there was some people in Ontario that were supporting people with disabilities. from everything from resume writing to finding potential employers. So the supports are there, but I would tell any employer out there to build your networks first. Don't post a position or look to fill a position before you've done that. It's about a successful, having a successful experience, not just for the workplace, but of course for the person you hire. So you have to build your networks. Partnerships are always a good thing. As I mentioned early on, you should never go this alone. I wish I had more groups, but in Nova Scotia, again, we've relied heavily on Ready, Willing, and Able, the YMCA. In Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, where I live, the Horizon Achievement Center. We've also reached out to group homes to bring in potential employees to our work sites to see what it would feel like or what it would be like to work at a park or work in one of our other divisions. Starting early is important. We've also developed extension programs within our Department of Lands and Forestry to bring our message to schools. Some of our opportunities, our jobs we have does require a post-secondary education. So you have to start early and you have to reach students when they're still in school before they reach that post-secondary education level. You go to the next one. I don't have a whole lot to say about this slide, but again, we often take credit as an employer for doing good things, but really the pleasure is all ours and the reward is all ours. Several years ago, this is a park that Tara, my coworker that'll be up next, this is a park that she's responsible for. I have to get this plug in because she often provides me with a lot of money to keep this park up and running. Some of you that may be on the line may have heard of the Myra River in Nova Scotia. It's a pretty popular river. For generations, people have been spending time there. We have a beautiful park out on a peninsula, but it's underutilized in the winter. We don't have a whole lot of utilization in the winter, so we decided to create a program that would reach out to group homes with in the Sydney area. Now, Sydney is a city, but it's a relatively small city of about 100,000. But there's several group homes within the city, and so we thought, why not spend time bringing people with intellectual disabilities to our park to enjoy in the winter. So we would provide ice fishing opportunities, snowshoeing and cross-country skiing, campfires. And one thing I found out pretty quick is that I'm not a very good singer, but a lot of the people that joined us in the park were. So we would sing some pretty popular local songs. And through these initiatives, we've also, we found potential employees. I'm sorry. So we continue to reach out that way to offer opportunities where they may not otherwise exist, but also to potentially offer employment. Okay. We'll go to the next slide. I guess for potential employees out there, it's very important to recognize barriers. One thing I did with my workplaces well in advance of bringing people on with an intellectual or physical disability was to really highlight their role, the employee's role, what their role will be in the success of the employee that was going to be joining us. Really, it's important to have buy-in prior and just to let people know, the current employees, how much you appreciate the effort that they'll be putting forward to provide a welcoming workplace. Of course, we're all aware that there are biases and prejudices out there. So through our government, we have also a respectful workplace policy. And to boil it down, it really means it's a zero tolerance policy, and that that all employees are to follow. So very important you do that. In my existing workplace, in my current workplace, I try to create a culture through education. So all of our staff meetings, we'll do treaty education, cultural competency type training, diversity proficiency, recognizing minority groups and however we can through public speakers, potlucks, cultural potlucks. Of course, as a leader, I realize I have to lead by example, and it's something I certainly take pride in trying to do every day. I think we go to the next slide. I'm hoping we can play this video, and I hope it works out okay. I need to, or should I say, I have to set up this video because what you're going to find out pretty quickly here is I'm not a great interviewer. I don't think Peter Mansbridge would have anything to worry about. You'll hear me asking Michael Martin, probably this gentleman here, 3 times. I'm asking him the same question because I wanted to get to an answer that he provided me every year for the last 4 years when I asked him how work was going or what he liked about work so much. What became abundantly clear with Michael is that his profound caring for other people. He works in a smaller park. It's called Petersfield Park within the Cape Breton Regional Municipality. It's a very busy park, and he has 3 co-workers, and they're all getting to an older age, I guess you would say. They're all 60 plus years of age. So he takes great pride in helping them. And if there's something heavy, he has to step forward and lift that. Michael, when he joined us 4 years ago, and I guess this is from his mother, Virginia, before joining us in 2017, Michael was very introverted. He struggled to speak with people, to carry a conversation. At home, he was okay, his mom would say, but out in public, it was very hard to get him to speak. He came with very little confidence to our work site, but a great willingness to learn. Over time, we all witnessed an amazing transformation that simply grew from being given a chance. The training and support that we were able to give him to operate different pieces of equipment like ride-on mowers, whippersnippers, Argos, all-terrain vehicles. It allowed him to continue on and to get a driver's license. And this was something his mother thought would never happen. She would say prior to joining our department, the highlight of his day was walking to Tim Hortons with his brother, who also has a disability, and spending an hour having a cup of coffee. So to see the transformation of Michael has been astounding, and I'm very proud of our hires. And as I said before, I hope we can continue on this path. So I hope the video will work. Again, it's not a professional video, it's my own video, and I'm not a great interviewer, but I hope there's something to be gleaned from it. Thank you for your time.
Okay, we're here today with Michael Martin. Michael has just finished his 4th year at Petersfield Park as a park attendant. So, Michael, I'm going to ask you a few questions. And so, Michael, could you kind of tell us overall what your job is at Petersfield Park?
I cut the grass, and I whippersnip, and I haul some gravel and fix up the trails, and I trim some branches off the trees, and I do some maintenance work.
Do you sometimes interact with some of the visitors? Do visitors ask questions, or do they sometimes come and ask questions about the park, or does that happen very often?
Oh yeah, they'll come and ask questions, yeah.
So what would you say you like the most about working for Lands and Forestry?
Everything that I like to do out there.
So when you go to work each day, do you feel supported by your co-workers? You know, what is your relationship with your co-workers? Are you friends?
Oh yes, friends with them all, yeah.
If there's one job in the park you would like to do the most, what would you say that is?
I would like to cut the grass. Yeah.
So, as the winter is coming to a close and spring is coming and you see the grass growing and you know pretty soon you're going to be going back to Petersfield Park, how does that make you feel, thinking about going back to work?
Oh, pretty good, and can't wait to get back for the summer. Yeah.
So, every day you go to work, every day you go to work, is it a day that you're looking forward to?
Yes, yeah, yes it is, yeah.
What is your favorite task in the park to do? What is your favorite thing you like to do there?
If somebody needs help lifting something, I would help somebody lift the heavy things.
Yeah, I hear that from both you and your mom that you really care a lot about your co-workers. In that regard, you're always wanting to make sure that they're not lifting too much or doing things that maybe you feel are maybe too strenuous. You always want to chip in and give a hand, and that speaks volumes, I think, to your character, that you care so much about other people. So that's really nice to hear. Would you say you're proud of working for Lands and Forestry?
Yes.
So Michael's mother, Virginia, is also here with us today. And Virginia, I was just wondering, how do you think working for Lands and Forestry has impacted Michael's life?
Well, Michael is talking now. One time he wouldn't talk to anybody. He was so quiet. And there's a big difference in Michael now. And he usually talks more than he did just now. But something just struck me. One day before he had his driver's license, I was driving him to work. And a car came out of nowhere and hit our car. So he wasn't worried about the car getting damaged. All he was worrying about, I'm going to be late for work. That was his first thought. So make sure I called Helen right away to say he was going to be late. That's all he was worrying about. It was there was not that much damage done, but he wasn't worried about the car getting hit. And he said, "We got to call Helen and tell her I'm going to be late for work." I forgot all about that story. Yeah. But he just loves to go to work out there. He can't wait. He's up with the birds in the morning, an hour and a half before he even starts work to get ready to go.
Yeah, same with Michael. I remember the first year I spoke to you when I was checking in one day, and you said Michael is up in the morning and he's like, "Mom, we gotta go, we gotta go, we gotta go," and he refuses to be late for work. So once again, it bodes really well for how much he thinks of his job.
He just loves it. Yeah.
So speaking, I heard you just mention a driver's license. When did Michael get his driver's license, and do you think some of the confidence he has gained in the park may have helped him push?
It sure did, because if he wasn't working here, he would never have his license. And no, like I said, he's got them a year and a half now. But no, and now he drives himself to work, and he's my chauffeur. He chauffeurs me around now, instead of the other way. I did chauffeur him enough, so now it's my turn. But no, he's a real great little driver, and no, like I said, he's got so much more confidence since he started this job, and he loves his co-workers. And one of his co-workers come over to the house and visit, and they'll come for Thanksgiving and for supper with us, and he chats with them on the phone. But no,
I think as a manager, what I've noticed in both workplaces, both Myra and Petersfield, is the increased morale that these two gentlemen have brought to those work locations. I think it's all about support, the support they give your sons, but also the support that you guys are giving our staff and your co-workers. And I really have seen a big difference in morale at these work sites, because I really think it's all about respecting each other, and And the relationships have grown very strong, not just between Michael and Robbie and their coworkers, but even amongst the coworkers that were already on site. I've seen a big shift in that. So that's paid huge dividends at these work sites, just to see what these two gentlemen have done for the morale at these work locations. And it's something we don't often think of when we think of going to work every day. Staff often go to work to get a certain job done, but I think it's all these other little things that are happening that bode so well for the future of these work sites. So I want to thank you for that.
But even when Michael comes home every day, he'll say, well, guess what I did today? Or guess what we did today? Like, he's all excited to let us know what he did at work that day.
And that's a great point too, because I think the energy they have brought to the work sites has improved the morale. So it's all part and parcel of a healthier workplace. When you have people going in and just wanting to get to work in time, get the work done, their energy is contagious in these cases, and once again, it's paid huge dividends. So
Yeah, it is. But even when we were getting his clothes ready to wear today, he was saying, now too bad now I wasn't getting ready to go to work now. Yeah. You know, so, oh yeah, but he enjoys it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Paul, for that video and for your presentation. So I'll just turn it over to Octavio to introduce the other speakers now.
Yes, so now we're going to present Logan MacDonald and Tara, who are working also in the Nova Scotia parks, but they took the initiative to do an internal assessment. So they're gonna walk us through to that internal assessment or accessibility assessment, and what are the things they did in order to create an environment and parks more accessible to people living with disabilities and people and youth with diverse abilities. So I will pass it over to Logan and Tara. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm Logan, and I'm going to speak a little bit on assessing the accessibility of infrastructure. So first, just a little background on Nova Scotia Provincial Parks. So we operate 20 camping parks. We have 25 district offices and over 100 day-use parks, which include beaches and picnic parks mostly. So over the past few years, many of our parks have began providing accessible experiences, including accessible campsites, Moby beach mats, and beach wheelchairs. And a lot of these parks are really busy. Our busiest parks can see hundreds of visitors every day, and we also have hundreds of park staff, both at the parks and at district offices. So what I'm mostly going to focus on is a project we began in 2019 to assess the accessibility of both our parks and our offices. Just go to the next slide, please. Thanks. So over the summer of 2019, we completed accessibility audits at all of our camping parks and offices, along with many of our day-use parks. So we used Mercanson Foundation accessibility guidelines and developed specific criteria for auditing our parks and offices. The audit process varied based on each location, but the 7 main sections included parking, exterior approach, ramps and stairs, the main entrance, and washrooms. And on the right there, you can just see an example of kind of what one section of the audit would look like. So basically, each aspect of the 7 main sections was graded based on how closely it matched the accessibility requirements. Next slide, please. And then from these audits, we were able to develop in-depth reports on each location, highlighting the accessibility needs. We found a variety of issues that occurred consistently throughout our parks and offices, and one main takeaway was that we had some very accessible infrastructure, but a lot of the supporting surrounding infrastructure was a little bit lacking. So for example, in many parks, we had almost fully accessible washrooms, but the exterior approach and the entrance and the parking were areas that really needed improvement. So this really gave us a good idea of projects we could implement to increase accessibility at both our parks and offices. So just a few things I wanted to mention when considering accessibility audits of any infrastructure. First of all, lived experience is very important. You can audit infrastructure and design solutions to meet building code standards, but at the end of the day, you really need feedback from individuals living with accessibility needs. And second, our audits focus mainly on physical accessibility, public infrastructure, and this was mainly due to the environment of provincial parks. However, these audits can easily be modified to focus more on individual aspects of a different workspace and really assess for any need. So I'm going to pass it over to Tara now to talk about the findings of these audits and how they're being implemented.
Yeah, thank you, Logan. Wow, I just a shout out there to both of you, but Paul specifically. I've worked with Paul for quite a few years now, and I'm quite aware of the work that he's doing up there and his leadership style. And I wanted to say thank you for that presentation. I've watched those videos and I've heard you speak before, but that was quite moving. So thank you. It's a hard act to follow after yourself and Logan, but I'll give it a whirl. Folks, I'm speaking from the employer's perspective from Lands and Forestry, specifically Nova Scotia Parks. And I want to put it out there that over the last number of years, we are very much committed to providing a more accessible experience for our staff and our visitors at provincial parks. And I've been fortunate the last couple years to be successful in receiving some funding from the Green Jobs Initiative. So in 2019, we got funding for 2 accessibility students. Logan was one, Kristen Bartman was the other. And then last year we got funding for 1, and that was Logan coming back again. Yeah, so I wanted to thank Project Learning Tree for that and Green Jobs. And I know this is probably a busy slide to start with, but anyone on the call from a government's perspective could maybe appreciate this. Logan and Kristen had some big deliverables. So you heard Logan speak that, you know, we have over 100 day use parks and 20 camping parks and 25 district offices. It's a lot of work for a 4-month work term, but we had some really great students. I just put some screenshots in of their reports. And the first one there is the audits of the 20 camping parks. And the one below is the district office reports. And then in the middle there is day use parks. So these are our beach parks or picnic parks, trail experiences. So they also did audits for those. About 6 to 12 the first year, and then Logan did some more last season. And then on the right-hand side, this is a Park 1 pager. And in addition to those 3 deliverables on the left, they also did 1 pagers, basically talking about the audit score from a camping park's perspective, looking at where it ranked with the other parks, talking about some quick fixes or priorities that could be done with limited budget that would really rise that accessibility score. So the takeaway at this slide is that sometimes in government, you know, reports will sit on a shelf and not be used. And I wanted folks to know that these reports were our foundation documents to get us our baseline data, because this was, you don't know what you don't know, so to speak. And we needed a baseline to build an accessibility plan or strategy and something to work towards. So kind of these are my Bibles in the sense when I'm planning infrastructure projects and I'm partnering with municipalities and NGOs, is this gives me an idea of where to go from, because we have the sheer number of parks in our landscape challenges, we need some baseline documents. So, and I will mention very much, you can go to the next slide, Amy. I will mention that in my presentation, and Logan referenced it as well, it's very much mobility accessibility. So the other parts of accessibility we haven't worked towards as much. So this is mostly from a mobility perspective. So, and Paul will know where that is, but it's one of those Moby mats to set Myra River Day Use Park in Cape Breton. So in 19, we did the audits, and then in 2020, Logan come back and he did specific accessibility projects related to parking, accessible campsite design. He's an engineering student at University of New Brunswick, and he also did some more beach park audits for us. And I will say that Kristen and myself presented at the Deputy Minister's Forum with their reports in 2019. And when you see next step included, these are the specific recommendations that Kristen and Logan found out, and that kind of gave myself and gave area managers like Paul a process to go towards, like look at everything that they've outlined for taking accessibility in Nova Scotia to the next level. And I'm going to walk through in the next few slides kind of how we started to implement it. But the first thing that they said, you need a comm plan and you need to share the reports with staff. So we started to incorporate that the last couple of years, specifically starting with the one pagers. So we recognize it's a culture change for our staff, but there was some small things that gave them a snapshot of whether it was grab bars or moving garbage cans or lowering paper towel dispensers, but there was some small things that they could do at the park level to increase that accessibility score and make the environment more inclusive. More research and best practices from website design. So that was another thing that they said, you got to take a look at your website. You have that accessibility symbol slapped up everywhere. We need to move forward and do a better job explaining the experience. And that was very much true. And I'm going to show you what we've done there. More audits, so more information to make better decisions. They really would like us to see a design manual for our accessible infrastructure, which we've started. And I'll show a picture of Logan's accessible campsite design and one that I had for a new picnic table. And then they said, that whole quote, nothing for us without us. So first voice or lived experience is what's needed to make sure that we're on the right track. And so we started having some workshops with folks with lived experience this past fall to talk about, you were out to the parks and we tried out some of your new vault toilets or your comfort stations or your mats, and this is what we learned. And so having that feedback gives us some really good strategies and tasks to do a better job this coming season, because we are just starting, we're just scratching the surface. We're doing our best to with our engineers and our landscape planners, but I'm all about giving something a try and very much supportive of pilot projects. And I'm going to share with you in a couple minutes one that our staff did, where they basically, when you're looking at that slide, you're seeing a rollout mat. Well, they did a rollout removable boardwalk. And I'll show you a little picture of that. And that was done from our staff at one of our beach parks. And the last bullet point is none of this could happen without partnerships. Logan partnered a lot with municipalities throughout Nova Scotia, where we have a small amount of money for infrastructure and parks, but municipalities can get grants to help improve the mobility experience with folks with different abilities and leverage funds. So those partnerships with municipalities and NGOs makes the dollar go a lot further. And yeah, I think the next slide's great. Yeah, so this is a summary slide of the new stuff for this season. I'm going to show some pictures. I wanted to walk through it because I just wanted to draw the importance to accessible, gender neutral experiences and being inclusive in parks, beaches, and trails. So the first one, Blomidon, is a very popular provincial park in Nova Scotia, and we had a new entry building or gatehouse that's accessible, fully accessible, and gender neutral washroom, and that was a new construction. Pretty much given any new construction will have that accessible lens. The next one, the Islands, it's a park down in southwestern Nova Scotia, right on the ocean, like many of our parks are, and it had a kind of used the existing footprint, but now has a gender neutral accessible comfort station. And our old style comfort stations typically have the male female side, but with our new design of comfort stations, we've built, well, 2, we're going to be doing a 3rd one this year, but it has the individual rooms, right? That are gender neutral, self-containing, sink, toilet, washroom, flush, urinal. And that's really the design that we're going towards. And there's a lot of benefits, especially from a cleaning perspective. You don't have to, you know, shut down your washroom for an hour or so to clean. You can just clean room by room, but I'm going to show you a nice picture of that one. We also had a refresh done to our battery entry building up in Cape Breton, up in Paul's area, but we had an accessible gender neutral washroom built there for staff and visitors, and that was new construction. I have a few photos of that one. We are pretty much geared towards all our pit or our vault toilets as being gender neutral. They are self-contained, a pit, a toilet. Gender doesn't need to be specified. So we did make some adjustments to some of them this year for accessibility perspective. And I just list them off. I can appreciate you folks won't know where they all are, but I have some pictures to show that design. Beach access. So yeah, we are a coastal province, lots of beaches in park properties. Malmurby Beach. So we invested in one of the hippocamp beach chairs. Had it for 2 years, just used it at the beach this past season. And this is where staff were very innovative in infrastructure and built that accessible boardwalk. Palm Cap Beach specifically speaks to Logan's work, where he helped design the parking pad that connects to the accessible boardwalk, and we had a Moby mat there. And the other parks are ones where we have them: Heather's Clam, Rissers, and Port Maitland, and Myra River. So we're really trying to provide an accessible beach experience. A neat partnership we did with the Marguerite Salmon Association, and that's up near Paul's stomping grounds in Cape Breton. Yeah, we tend to work a lot together with these initiatives. So it's a sport fishing dock, accessible vault toilet, accessible picnic shelter, and picnic table. And that's a really neat experience. Aylmer Shore, we have these camper shelters throughout our parks where you can go in, plug your phone, get warmed up by the fire, have a picnic, play cards, have a tune. And we did a new accessible camper shelter design by one of the engineers here that works with me, so I can show you that. And then Logan was pretty instrumental in actually doing our first accessible campsite design. And we built those 2 new sites at the Aylmer Shore Provincial Park, and shared the designs with First Voice, got some feedback, and we'll see how they go. This will be the first season this season that will be operational. And the last thing was the website improvement. So I'll show you those. You can go to the next slide there. Yeah, so this is the Blomidon Provincial Park entry building, brand new construction, barrier-free entrance, and yeah, the gender neutral washroom. Really proud of this building. It's been on the list for a while, very popular park. Oh, that's okay, Amy, go ahead. You can go to the next one. This is the island's comfort station. So there's actually 7 washrooms. You can see the individual doors, and there's accessible parking and obviously the railings and the accessible approach to use the washroom. So that was new construction on existing footprint. Okay, this is the inside of that. So level threshold, grab bars, the toilet with the back support, features. I will notice as I'm looking at this picture now where the hand dryer is doesn't make sense unless you were drying your hair maybe, but it actually should be over on the other wall. But yeah, just this is the insides of those washrooms. So if you would know what some of our washrooms look like versus this, it's a definite improvement. So you can go to the next one. Yeah, so these are some of our vault toilet structures, and just talking about the approach, the low slope ramp and with the edge protection. And in some of them now, they kind of double as a change house too, where you will have a bench in there as well. You can go ahead, Amy. This is the Battery Provincial Park. So the admin building is up on the top right, and you can see on the bottom there the approach and the railing to the gender neutral washroom. It's on the left hand side. So yeah, we don't put any gender and just use the accessible symbol. And this is the inside of that one. So I believe their towel dispenser and garbage can are in the right spots, and you can see the grab bars there and the back support and the grab bar for the urinal. Go ahead. Yeah, this is really neat. I really like this partnership. If you remember my picture from the front of this, I'm a fisheries biologist by trade, so this was a really cool project. And I used to do fishing workshops with folks with mobility issues all the time. So this partnership came about to build a barrier-free sport fishing dock. So, you know, you have that enthusiasm and partnership from a fishing club, and then we partner with them. So it's not just about the dock, right? It's about the accessible parking. It's about accessible washroom and picnicking and approach. So they might have had money to do the dock, but you know, to make this a truly accessible experience, we have to be mindful of parking and washroom facilities. So really great project. Okay, Amy. This is the shelter. Excuse the caution tape and do not enter. Due to COVID last year, we didn't have the building open, but we are going to be able to have it open this season. And yeah, it's just a spot to get warm. It's adjacent to the comfort station, wood stove, places to plug your phone in. We'll have an accessible picnic table, that new design I mentioned. But yeah, that's the shelter. Okay. Yeah, this is the parking pad that Logan worked on. This is a beautiful beach park. It's Palmcat Beach Provincial Park, one of the first parks that really partnered with the municipality and really kind of rose the bar to what an accessible experience might be like at Nova Scotia beaches. And so this is the parking pad, the boardwalk, and the Moby mat. Okay. Yeah, and this one here, this is Melmerby Beach, and you can see the chair. And this was the boardwalk, wood on stringers, removable, that comes out from the initial boardwalk and down to the water. And, you know, can be removed quite easily, like the mats are a little heavy, but this was built by staff. And we had a lot of great success with it and was able to provide that. And that was something new this season. Okay. Yeah, this is the website. It's a pretty catching picture. I don't know if folks believe that the water in Nova Scotia could be that color. It looks like something from Dominican or Cuba, but it's cold, but in that part of the Atlantic Ocean. But yeah, this is our new Provincial Parks website. And one of the things that Logan and Kristen said, you know, you need to do some planning and do a better job in explaining the accessible experience. So folks that do have mobility issues can make their own call or make their own judgment on if the park offers the experience that they need. So you can go ahead. Yeah, so we needed to explain the accessible features. We wanted to make it clear with more visual, have a plain language professional with Communication Nova Scotia, take a look at how we were explaining things. And then, you know, you need to get some first voice or lived experience feedback on if the language is right. So we started this and did a better job in explaining the feature. You can go to the next one there, Amy. Yeah, so, you know, when you see that symbol at a camping park, what does it mean? And when I was on my breakout session, I said, you know, and actually it was on my interview way back when, is basically, what does that tell someone by just putting the symbol? Is your park office accessible? Is your dining or your picnicking area accessible? Is there accessible trail experience? Can you get down to the water, or maybe it's only a viewing platform? And is there a campsite? So at this park specifically, and this is what we did throughout our whole website, is actually explain the feature. And you can see the description there. 3 washrooms, 2 are universal washrooms, or 3 are, and then 2 are, and then it talks about the turning radius and the door width, and so folks with chair versus scooter can get through, and is there parking? So yeah, they told us, you know, we need to do a better job, and we're not all there yet, I will say, but we've come a long way to actually explaining what the features are. Okay, next slide. Yeah, I put this up here for employers, and just be mindful of, right? Like Logan mentioned, we actually have 200 plus parks. 130 of them are operational, and we don't have a line item in a capital budget to do this, but it is a priority and it's important to us. And so, and we have a lot of landscape features that make it really challenging. So just to drive home the importance of doing audits and getting baseline, because if we didn't have the reports that Kristen and Logan, we wouldn't have a baseline or start to build a plan from. And it really talked about where, if you were given money or you did have more resources, where you might want to put them. And then, you know, some places are just a no-no, that we can't offer that experience. So just throwing that slide out. And this is actually at Blomidon Day Use Park, where you have an accessible kind of viewing area of the Inner Brea Fun Day. Okay, next one. I'm almost done. Yeah, so this was the other thing that they said, not only partnerships in their reports or their recommendation, is you need first voice feedback. And I know Logan mentioned this, and there's a design of our new picnic table. In our provincial park system, our picnic tables for accessible were huge. They were long, they were heavy, and come to find out, they weren't very inclusive, in the sense that someone in a chair was always, you know, rolled into the head of the table. And, you know, what I'm learning from being on all these accessibility committees is any type of infrastructure or experience folks with mobility challenge should enter or approach the area in much the same way as able-bodied people. And yeah, totally makes sense. And so this new design incorporates that. And when I was speaking with some folks with first voice experience, one of them needed some assistance with eating, where if he was positioned at the head of the table and his partner or friend was on the side, that made it a little bit of a challenge, right? Where this time in this design, someone with a wheelchair can wheel in, like any able-bodied person would go and approach a piece of infrastructure like a picnic table, and then his partner or friend can sit adjacent and assist with eating. So we're going to give this design a try at parks in Nova Scotia this coming season, and get some more feedback. So this is a couple slides on resources for youth. So this is our Government of Nova Scotia website. So all our jobs, diverse employment experiences, my green jobs, funding jobs, everything is posted here for students to go and apply to. And the next one is a slide that I made kind of to speak to Paul's stuff. And when I went on this website, they're really good because they cover both the job seekers, so the students or youth that are looking for work, and then the employers. So they have a section for both. And we had a presentation, and it's amazing program. Paul speaks really highly of it, and I thought it would be a good resource for youth and employers on this call to check out. And I think that's it. Yeah, I just wanted to thank Octavia and Zach and for inviting us to speak about our experiences. It's we're really appreciative of the funding, and are working towards, you know, being that employer that, you know, supports all abilities and provides experiences. And I think with Paul's presentation, it's that support piece that makes the experience valuable to the employees. And, you know, employers need to walk the talk and show that leadership skill. And from an accessibility point of view, I really think we're doing good work. We need to slow down a little bit and make sure what we have done the last few years is working well, because in that feedback, I got a sense that, you know, there's some things that, you know, you could improve with what you have done already. And I'd really like to use the Park One pagers as a form of training in a culture change for some of our park staff to just be a little bit more mindful of at least the mobility side, even though we know we need to be more inclusive and not just be mobility focused. So yeah, thank you. I'll take, I don't know how folks here would like to do questions to myself and Logan and Paul, but if there's time, we might be able to take a few, if that's how you would like to do it.
Yeah, thank you, Tara. Thank you, Logan and Paul, for this amazing presentation. I believe that we have a lot of knowledge now about accessibility and creating opportunities for diverse abilities and youth. So I'm thinking, I just want to highlight something that I think is very important for the presentation, that of course creating those partnerships is really good, and also having the lived experience for people in order to develop programs that can support them. And so we have some questions that I got in the chat, and I think this is more particular. I don't know, whoever wants to answer it, they can answer it, but I would put it just there. So they wanted to know, as an employer, if you can explain if you have to comply with requirements when you connected with the organizations in order to hire a youth living with this, or a person living with disabilities. That will be the first question. If an employer, what do you have anything to comply with? And the other one is regarding the interview process. If you can illustrate or give us an example of what accommodations did you provided for these individuals. I think maybe, I don't know if Paul wants to go there.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, so this is Paul. Hopefully I can answer this appropriately, but so we are, with support of senior management, we're able to designate positions within our department. So we can designate them to one of the 4 employment equity groups. And as I stated, we're trying to designate more and more of our positions to people with disabilities. And so we do that. So when we post a position, it does carry that designation. So only people with a disability need apply. I personally, again, I go back to Ready, Willing, and Able. I've worked with them, or had them work with me, because I guess maybe most of it's the lack of my understanding, to help me formulate questions for interviews, as well as we provided support. So we allowed candidates to come in with their supports, whether it be a family member or somebody from an organization, to help walk them through the interview process. So it's to allow them to put their best foot forward. And yeah, so, you know, but we're always open to other suggestions. We want to do what we can to break down barriers. And the last time I interviewed for 2 positions, I believe I had 5 candidates, and all 5 I would have loved to have hired that day because they're all very competent people in my mind, and I'm sure all 5 would have done a great job. Unfortunately, I only had 2 positions, but yeah, hopefully that's kind of answering the question.
Yeah, I think it does. And then thank you, Paul, for answering the question. So I think there is another question just regarding who were the partnerships that you collaborated with in the mobility audit, in the mobility accessibility audit. Yeah. I think you're muted, Tara. Tara, I think you're muted.
1 second, I have to unmute her. I was just having a hard time finding you in the screen here. There you go.
Yeah, I think Logan was going to answer that from an audit point of view, kind of who they partnered with and their learning, and then you can answer that one, Logan, and I can answer if it was about associations. So
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
So I guess from a kind of developing the audit process, it was based on Rick Hansen Foundation accessibility guidelines. So they do a really good job of kind of, their accessibility handbook really does a great job of laying out exactly what you should look for when doing accessibility assessments, going beyond what like a standard building code would look for accessibility. So I guess that's really how we developed the audit tool that we used.
yeah, and I don't know if there was yeah, so there's the Rick Hansen Foundation, and there was some internal staff here just to make that audit process you know, easy and user friendly on tablets for both of Kristen and Logan to do, because they had, you know, the 20 parks, the 12 or the 24 offices and the 12 beaches and across the whole province, so they could go and do it quite quickly. Yeah, and I don't know if the question related to other partnerships or organizations, but from a government perspective, the NGOs, the fishing clubs, different departments and municipalities, really, right? Because they're the kind of the eyes and ears of the community, and yeah, that's a great resource to partner with, because the dollar goes a lot further, right?
Okay, thank you. And we just, I don't know if we want to answer the last
Yeah, I
question in
think
the
we should
chat.
take the last question. So Jocelyn was just asking, as an employer, do you prefer an employee with a disability request accommodations at submitting an application, or wait till if invited for interviews? From my experience, many job seekers fear if they indicate a disability early in the application process, they will be discriminated against and not get a fair chance at the opportunity. So it's in the chat if you guys want to take a look at that one, but Paul, you're off mute now, so.
Yeah, I can't speak for all employers, just my employer, which is government, which I know does, you know, it's a little bit different, maybe, you know, pockets are a little bit deeper. But for example, at my River Provincial Park, we have an employee with cerebral palsy, and knowing that in advance allowed us to accommodate him really before he came. We're having new construction, and we're able to, for drive-up service, we're able to put in a motorized window to help aid him in opening the window, as well as a motorized door to allow easier access for him in and out of the building. So from my perspective, it certainly benefited us knowing that in advance. Again, I guess I'm extremely proud to work for government because of those reasons. I don't think that discrimination exists, but I also understand that private employers, maybe small business, they may not have that financial ability to, you know, to do some of those accommodations. It's makes it a little tougher, but certainly through the government lens, I think it's a good idea, and I would welcome. You know, we'd like to know that up front for sure if we can.
Okay, well, thank you, Paul, for this, for answering the question. I think we're just running a bit out of time, so I'm just gonna pass it now on to Jess so that we can continue with the last piece of the workshop. Thank you everyone for joining, and I see you in the breakout rooms.
Awesome. Thanks, Octavio. And thank you again, Paul, Logan, and Tara. It was amazing to hear your experiences. And I know a lot of people in the room benefited from hearing the efforts you guys have made, and more importantly, the benefits you've received from making those accommodations and working with youth living with disabilities. So thank you.
Growing future forest and conservation leaders.